Christ calls us into a different type of relationship with humanity and with God. And I like the way the brothers they saw what the trick was and said, no, we're not going to give the empire the secret. So we're going to go another way. And so I think it becomes 21st century. How can we, brothers and sisters, theologically wrestle with the shape of Christianity, the shape of our spirituality, and knowing that we have over 500-600 years of abuse of the text, and how do we reframe that to be a liberating organization?
Well, I mean, like I say, if we go back to a, I guess, well, I wouldn't say original, but a more historically appropriate understanding of the Gospels, of how and why they were put together, and as far as the history of Jesus, so to speak, I believe it will paint more of a clearer picture as far as how we are want to conduct ourselves, but most importantly, what should we be, reflecting on that should tell us how we conduct ourselves? Because I believe that's a part of the problem. We are more focused on, like I say, again, it looks more like a material, physical understanding, which is metropolitan, meaning how should I act? How should I dress? What should I look like? Who should I be talking to? Where should I go? Can I drink this? Can I smoke that? Can I, we always look at it from a natural state of being, on the front end. Well, actually, this is actually the back end. If everything is spirit, which is eternal, and our flesh is bound by time, then actually the backdrop of all things is spirit. But anyway, essentially where I'm trying to break the dichotomy is that if we, again, return back to the scriptures, return back to the Gospels, the analyzation or the approach that Jesus had to the majority of situations were devoid of any type of like a status quo understanding of what conduct should be. I mean, they definitely brought him situations where, there was some fishy conduct or there was some gray areas, things of that nature. But as we see with the majority of times when they came to Jesus with these situations, he never passed any type of judgment.
Right.
He offered an extension of love, so to speak, through compassion, empathy, or forgiveness, and then just instructed the person to, just change their behavior, change their way of thinking, and in doing so, in that missing part of passing judgment, that's why I see the link is broken from a natural way of looking at how should I, honor God with my body, versus a more, like, honestly, it seems more psychological and emotional, where it's how do I just love myself, and how can I continue to look at myself and my brother in the same capacity that God is supposed to be, quote unquote, looking at me, meaning that, we are, cherished in God's eyes, so to speak. We're cherished by God and loved completely by God. So if that is the case, we should actually shift from like a judgmental, physical understanding or influence of what is conduct, what is righteous, what is holy, so to speak, and not say put those on the shelf, but shift the way of thinking to where it is actually a spirit-led exercise, where the influence comes from meditation and prayer and just complete love, so to speak, or trying to urge yourself to be completely compelled to love versus following some type of orthodox way of thinking. I mean, that's to say, that can be a little extreme, but again, if we go back to the Gospels, that's essentially what Jesus is doing. And it's in all four Gospels where the confrontation, that primarily arose was from Jesus going against a traditional understanding of righteousness or just God-like action.
If we look at the word righteousness in its original context, it's more of justice. I would hate to use the word, but I'm going to use it anyway. Ma'at. If you're going to go for the truth, you know, truth stands by itself, you know, as itself, and there's no gray area in truth. And I think that's kind of where Jesus is operating at that truth level.
Right.
You know, understanding again human nature and human desire and human frailty, trying to catch him up in some trickery. And he said, no, I'm not going to operate at that level.
Right.
You know, and so that caused us to have to transcend, you know, the trickery of again, like you say, selfishness and that base understanding of what life is about. Again, it's calling us to a different consciousness. It's calling us to a different form of living. Again, it's causing us to rethink our value system. We have a Greco-Roman value system that is more individualistic, is more power focused or power hungry, and that power again is more individualized, and we can use it for the detriment of everybody else.
Right.
And so, you know, we just have to look at it. We have to look at the story in a different way. How is this, again, in the 21st century, and in the African American community or folks who are on the margins? How do we look at this story so that we can now look at it as a meta narrative or a larger story, so that we can now create a more just society? And I think if we look at the picture of the debate between Obama and Romney, you saw, you know, this power dynamic going on. You know, how can I force my issue upon a greater amount of society, and you know, how can I force America into these other arenas that, and again, manifest destiny, as some folks would say. You know, it's the manifest destiny of the United States to promote democracy around the world. And some of that stuff, man, is detrimental to what our spirituality and
that's actually pretty good that you say that, because like history reveals that, again, you know, Jesus was crucified, you know, by the Roman Empire, and you know, history shows that after his crucifixion, you know, they divided time and essentially, you know, shifted his story, you know, for better or for worse, and pretty much used, you know, the power actually of elevated consciousness, so to speak, into the structure that is used for individualism. I mean, it's very slick. You know how the power that Jesus actually operated under, you know, being an anointed one, you know, put him in a position where he was a leader or a hero, so to speak, or a legend. And the only reason why he was catapulted to that position was because everything that he said was diametrically opposed to individualism and selfishness. But it's so interesting how, just off of his reputation alone, by exalting him as like this hero that everyone should try to ascend to, they've shifted the narrative again, that from the only reason why he was such a hero is because he told everyone to share, that they flipped it, saying that you could be a hero too if you leave like a legacy or a history for yourself. You know, saying that when you come to Jesus or when you come to Christ, that gives you power, so to speak, to will things to happen, or to will some type of change, or to maneuver, you know, what you want or what you need into your life. You know, I mean, you know, they always go in on prosperity gospel, but I would say that before then there was a gospel of individualism that's been virtually in every Western ideology. You know, for a very long time. They just caught on to it in the 21st century through capitalism, you know, by directly going for the money, so to speak. But But there's definitely a strong undertone of like you say that use of the word power. You know, there's a lot of emphasis on the power of God, but the emphasis is always placed on like what can you get out of God or what you can do. You know, like I definitely believe the scripture is true. You know, all things are possible. You know, through Christ. But the only time I ever hear those scriptures are being used is for our own like individual causes. You know, even if they're good causes, like I need to get a wife, so to speak. You know, I need to get a husband. Yes, getting a husband, getting a wife is good for the community. You know, helps family. Definitely, like not against that. But if you are doing it for your own like self-righteousness, then that seemingly is like short-circuiting what Jesus was trying to compel us to be, which is to be completely compelled for other people. So I mean, that's why it brings in those intimate questions, like why are we even asking for the right thing, so to speak? Like why are we asking for a good job? Why are we asking for a stable family? Why are we asking for loving relationships? Like why are we asking for financial security? Again, none of those things are things we're not supposed to have or not supposed to ask for. But if we are asking it from a cultural influence of, you're supposed to be financially stable for the sake of being financially stable. You're supposed to have a family for the sake of, maintaining the status quo of the white picket fence. You're supposed to be, a loving individual so that you can just get that energy back. Whenever it's designed for your own self-contained bubble of self-righteousness, for your own personal well-being, I personally believe that it takes us one step away, from the gospel of Christ, and somehow it definitely short circuits our ability to be influenced by the Spirit, which should compel us to, go and get those things anyway. But getting them for the sake of the uplifting, like they say, the uplifting of God's kingdom, the uplifting of the Spirit, so that whatever you are into, or whatever type of influence that you've come under that has caused you to ask for some sort of thing, is only for the collective body, meaning that if it's put you in some type of position of power or some type of hero capacity, it's only supposed to be used that you can continue to raise awareness that people should not be selfish, that people should not be thinking just based on what they see. People should not be culturally influenced. People should just be spiritually led to do whatever it is, and that will in turn, lead them into whatever direction that they're supposed to go in. Because yes, everybody's not supposed to be in power. Everybody ain't gonna be rich. Everybody ain't gonna get married. Everybody ain't gonna be, insert status quo blank. Everybody's not gonna get that. But everybody can get the type of collective consciousness of God that makes the ability to love self, higher, so that you can in turn love everyone else.